Hello, everybody. We are already here for the February energy update. So, first of all, I hope you're doing well. And for those of you in the United States that have just come through or probably still experiencing that crazy winter storm we had, I'm in Iowa, as many of you know, and for us to miss a massive storm is almost improbable, and we didn't get anything. It's just been cold. So anyway, I've been thinking of all you out there, kind of digging through the winter weather, and for those of you on the other side of the pond, Australia, oh my gosh, it's been so hot. So interesting times we are in, obviously not just weather-wise, but collectively speaking with what's going on. Now, I did receive a few pieces of information that I want to expand upon in general, but also for February. The year has started out not unexpectedly, I would say. What they told me, and again, remember they use metaphors and they use words in ways that maybe we think otherwise, but or that we, I would say, maybe don't totally understand. But they said we're in our collective Armageddon. Okay, so there's a whole biblical idea of Armageddon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the thing is, the apocalypse is within us individually, but it also is within the collective because we are all one, right? So what they had said to me, we are right now in our, what you can call collective Armageddon, which I thought was really interesting. And when we look out there, I have to say, I mean, when we look worldwide, there have been the localized Armageddons, but now that and there's a whole history of why the United States is going through what it's going through, and I'm talking spiritually and energetically. Now that we have this country, United States, going through, a massive kind of upside down shift and change, old earth, new earth, it is our time. And the way it's playing out, can fill us with a lot of despair. I found myself going into that, was it earlier this week, I think? I mean, because we're all human, right? And we know we're here to maintain that high vibration, to ground in love and what we know is the truth of who we really are, but also to be able to stabilize ourselves enough so that we can hold for the collective. That is really one of our big roles as light workers. And that in some cases means, well, in many cases, what I will say to you is, and I've always seen this visual, is we are the ones that are to stay the course. We are the ones to hold space. We are the ones to ground. Now, that doesn't mean some of us aren't acting, if that makes sense. It depends on our sense of our role in all of this, is what I will say. I will give you an example, and then I'm going to get into more of this. But I'm talking about this because this is where we're headed, or this is what we're in right now. And the United States is highly impactful to what's going on in the rest of the world, which is why I speak to this, not to mention I'm from here. And, in looking at the big picture to help us understand the energy around what's going on, I'm going to speak to that. But one thing that I will say is what I have come to understand is that we are working through our collective karma and collective dysfunction now, okay? As a country, the United States has a very long history of, okay, I just heard sweeping things under the rug. Okay, so the other part of this is, remember, and I've been told this for a long time, is those of us that are back, yeah, we're here in common human form, but we are here because we also were part of the journey to why we're in this space we're in now, for good or not, right? So we have come in from all walks of life, and I'm not talking human life, just all walks of life, our soul journeys, whatnot. Many have come in now to, they just said fight the battle. But again, remember, it's not that, it's fighting the battle is fighting the battle with the love energy and the holding space and the high frequency and the vibration and not drowning in what's happening out there. All right. It doesn't mean we don't know. It doesn't mean, some version of, ostrich with its head in the sand. It's not that. It's knowing your place. It's knowing your place. I'll give you an example. I used to be a pretty prominent activist. I don't want to say prominent in what I felt was right for me to do, right? Politically involved, activism, standing up for what I thought was right and fair and the truth and how we should live. It's all before my awakening, right? One would kind of think just on the surface that once you awaken, you'd be even more involved. And no, it actually was the opposite for me. So we experience all different kinds of opportunities, roles in our human journey. But what happened with me is, as I was awakening, I drifted further and further away from that, from actually the action part of it, of all of this as a human, standing up for what's right. Doesn't mean I wasn't doing other things, but I was not out in the front lines. I was not out, knocking on doors. I wasn't out in protests or whatever. That said, and many of you may have found this, is it's now taken on a different twist, which is this holding of space, grounding in self, doing our individual work that then influences the collective through our field. Okay, we've talked all about this. Most of you understand how we as a collective of light workers are magnetic. As we grow in our own individual light, we pull the others along. And that's the simplified version of that, right? Now, the interesting thing is we've been taught that we have to act, that we have to stand up, that we have to externalize, right? That's where our power is. And to get out of that kind of mindset is really hard, because you can also run through a whole guilt trip and allow others to guilt you. But it's because because it's not understood, and this is new to us as a collective, that the light that we hold, the strength that we hold within, the grounding that we do for the collective that is it is out there kind of on the front lines. That's so important, because here's the thing. Think of a tug of war. You can use lots of metaphors. Think of the tug of war. The tug of war is, two groups pulling like this. Well, if one doesn't have a strength, you don't have the strength and you don't have pulling, you're weak, and you're allowing the other to pull you in to their side in that sense. And again, here we go, social media, news, the dark side, and it's so insidious, right? Well, guess what? There's no other side to keep pull the others over, right? There's no counterbalance. And remember, the universe wants balance, and that's where we are now. So guess what? We're the counterbalance to this fight response, okay? Because we have to have the counterbalance. We have to. And within that is the light, and you can say the dark. I don't like to use those terms, but I don't know. It's just the easiest way to say it. Low vibration, high vibration, whatever. Lower consciousness, higher consciousness. But it's the journey to this for the collective. And as we hold that space, and as we hold that light, and we don't allow ourselves to slip into this through all the means that I've talked about, then we're able to stabilize and continue to move forward. Again, kind of like, they keep showing me this, tug of war, where, the one team winning as such, pulling the others over slowly to their side. Okay. So right now, there's a big energy out there of the words despair is what I keep getting. And it's within the lightworker community too. All right. We can feel that. And what I would say to you is feel it. Okay. Feel it, but don't drown in it. All right. Recognize what's going on. Recognize the sorrow. It was the early part, I think, of this week. I kind of losing track of my days. I don't know about you guys, but January just kind of flew by. But I I let myself, and you kind of know how far you can go with like tapping into what's happening in the material world, and you know how far you can go before you feel like, oh my God, I'm going to a place that is not my vibration any longer. And you know the difference, right? I didn't, I was moving back into, and we've all been there, worry, concern, despair. How are we going to do this? That was my biggest thing. How are we going to do this? How are we going to get past this? How? And yet I know too that all of what we see out there is part of this journey. We have to have that happen. Now, we can go back to this whole idea that they brought to me of we come in individually with purpose and purposes, why we're here during this time, right? But where the individual human journey comes in is you have free will choice to decide how you're going to do your purpose. Are you going to do it with light and love? Are you going to do it with ego and hatred and spite and all of that, right? So that's where our individual choice comes in, how this plays out. Ultimately, we do get to, I've always seen this, we get to where we are meant to get to with the collective journey into the light. But how we get there literally is every single person's individual choice each day. Are we going to take the super hard way, which right now it feels like that, right? But that doesn't mean that's exactly what is happening, because we know how this journey works, right? What we see, it's, we're in the upside down. So point is as we move into our destiny, they just said, our destiny of creating these new times to come, how will we do it, right? And with each individual starting to wake up, which there's a lot of waking up now happening, and because as we know from stress and strife and all of that, a lot of waking up happens through trauma and collective trauma. So many people start to wake up. So there's all that twists and turns, okay? So as we are moving into this time now, that, as we have said, 26 and 27 are going to be highly difficult. As we look from the perspective of the human journey, as we look from our heart space and our sister and brotherhood, as we look at what's happening out there. But I will tell you that what you're doing is, and they said this to me, and it's probably going to be the title of the video, stay the course, stay the course. You kind of want to do what I did, because I wasn't sure how I was going to get out of how I was feeling, because it just really hit me. And then I kind of went, I didn't really go down the rabbit hole. I kind of looked into the rabbit hole and I could feel the energy. I thought, this isn't my role any longer. This is not my role any longer. It is for some people, right? But so I was feeling a lot of despair. I didn't sleep for a couple of nights very well. I woke up just not feeling like me. Now, I used to live in this energy. I think I've told you this before. I used to wake up in the morning before I'd go to work, and this is long before my awakening. I'd turn on MSNBC, watch all morning before I would go to work. That was how I'd start my day, right? Now, there's reason and purpose for that if that's part of your journey, and I do believe that at the time it was part of my journey. But the thing is, as we shift and change into what I'll just call our light worker mode, they just showed Buzz Lightyear. Oh my God, that's so funny. We understand that it's about frequency and vibration and where we spend our time. Okay. And again, so what they're really talking about this month is holding or staying the course, staying the course. So you want to feel what you feel. Okay. But then there is the pulling out of it. And it was really interesting because I could not hold that vibration very long. It didn't even really last 2 days. And then suddenly I was back to myself. And I almost felt guilty. Isn't that funny? I almost felt guilty about feeling back to myself, meaning in that high vibration space. But ultimately, it's what can I do each single day in the environment that I'm in to affect those that are around me and also continue to grow in my own journey. So I'm telling you all this because this is what's happening now. We are in truly the space of, and there's so much to be, how do I say, there's so much to see out there, especially in our day to day, that is beautiful and loving and lovely. But I will tell you, we are currently in our most difficult times. I can't really tell you how long that's going to last. I will tell you, though, that as I've said before, 26 and 27 are markedly difficult, particularly 26. We then will see a lot of, I think I've mentioned this before, they're showing this again, 2030, up through 2030. We are setting the stage for the new times to come. So right now we're in, oh, they just showed me this again. God, they're funny. So they showed me Peanuts, the Peanuts comic strip. And you remember the dust storms, like when they get in, I think it was Snoopy, I don't know, get in these little battles, right? And dust storms, that's what they're showing. That's where we're at right now. And I'm not trying to make light of anything that's going on out there. But remember, we've had a lot going on elsewhere around this world for ages. And now we are having to look at ourselves in this country of the United States. Now, this message is not just for people living in the United States. It's the same message, but we are in the current hot mess of watching this unfold, okay? And we are very much a country that has so much to rectify, and it's all coming up now, okay? And you can just, if you don't know the history of the United States, I would say go learn, and you'll see, oh, they just said the error in our ways. So again, a lot of us contributed to all of that. A lot of us are coming from the stars in to assist in a way that maybe we've not had the chance to before, I'll just say. But many of us also have had collective lives here that have, I will just say, and again, this isn't about guilting anyone, it's about recognizing why you're here, why we're here at this time. We are here to kind of save the day, save ourselves in that sense by doing our healing work, and also, rectifying past wrongs, they just said, rectifying past wrongs. And we do that through bringing in our heart space and our love for ourselves, first and foremost, and then the people that we encounter on a daily basis. Holding that space of high vibration. It does not mean you don't feel the feelings, okay? So I really wanted to give this to you today. I didn't know it would be this extensive, but we are preparing for the months to come. And I just want you to know it's okay to feel the feelings, right? It's okay to feel the feelings. Understand where they're coming from, and then bring yourself back into your heart space. Do the things that serve you to be able to keep yourself grounded, and holding space and for the rest of the collective, and then choosing to do obviously what you feel called to do in your own journey. All right, but it is. I've told you this before. It was in the last month or two how I was seeing the stretching. The stretching, and this is a continuous process, this stretching and the pull of old earth, new earth. These are energies, vibrations, right? And I've, for quite some time, seen people running across the bridge, okay? Like the bridge from old to new. But what we got to be careful of is that the old, in all its fight, doesn't pull those of us who are moving to the vibration of the new earth back in, if that makes sense. Because we've all been, we're all in the material world. We're all living in different timelines. People you walk by every day, you're living in different timelines, but we all have to be in the material world. And we're also living in different vibrations, okay? Which is why we all have different experiences, but then we have a collective experience, all right, that we're a part of. So what we want to be able to do is, again, I'm using simplistic terms to understand this, but pull everyone over to our side energetically, okay? Kind of, when you think about the awakening journey, we have all different perspectives. I work with people with all different perspectives, but the foundational aspect of this, it's more like how we get to where we're going. We all agree, but we may have a different way of getting there. So it can look very divisive on the surface of what your belief system is, right? And then how that starts to break down. What does that even mean? But it's foundationally, I have found, this separation that we have through like political parties and things like that, foundationally doesn't exist when you get down to the core of it. It's fascinating because you don't expect that, right? But yeah, we can agree on foundationally where we are going, and it's kind of the how behind it, right? Or the kind of seeing what we believe is real. And that's why we have to step away from that, and we have to continue to move right into the space of that foundational part. Keep building on that foundational part of the divine truth and the spark that you are. Okay? Not how do I want to say, not how the external world gets it done. I hope that's making sense to you. So anyway, staying the course is the big message for this time. I'm going to go into just some other channeling because they really wanted me to emphasize some of these things, and we got a lot more information too on that just now. So let's just see what we've got. Oh, okay, February. They just brought in the the fiery horse. Oh, I just got huge chills. Okay, so for many of you, I talked about this in the January in 2026 update, which was unexpected. All that came through, but we are in our new cycle of 9 years, right? New 9-year cycle, which is huge. Big, 2026 adds up to 9 for those of you who didn't see my other video. And we just came out of a 9-year 2025. So it's new beginnings, all right? But also to just add fire to that, we got fiery horse coming from the Chinese New Year and coming out of the snake year, shedding the skin. And that's happening in February. I don't know the exact date. But we're in that transition phase right now, okay? We're moving into fiery horse, which makes so much sense, right? We're having to shed. And I got to tell you, since I did my last video, and it was happening in December, but in January, I am not kidding you. Every single person that I work with, in fact, I was just astounded. It would be cool to do a book on this or just like kind of, be able to show the threads of the connections. But every single person is finalizing something massive in their journey, or something huge is opened up new that they're creating. And remember, it's a continuum. So not everybody, and this is because it's energetic, not everybody is starting the new thing on January, 10th, right? It's a continuum. So I'm seeing this flow of all walks of life, all different kinds of experiences, but big things, big shifts and changes in lightworkers and what we're going through. Now remember, everybody's going through the awakening. It's just whether you took the pill or not, right? Red pill, blue pill. Everybody's going through it. They just don't know it. And when you're consciously aware, you get to participate more. It kind of makes it sometimes more difficult, but maybe not. I don't know. But you kind of see the writing on the wall a little bit, but you are able to participate, all right? And you are able to also, as we know, very often mostly our intuitive gifts start to open up. We start receiving information. Even if you're getting, just say, repeating numbers, and they're like, well, I'm just getting repeating numbers. That's huge, all right? So we start to be able to participate in that manner, whereas others will not necessarily understand that. So as Fiery Horse begins, again, a 1 year, all right? And we've got a lot of shift and change in the planets. I'm not here to tell you about that because I'm not an astrologist, but I know enough to know that we have some major shifts. I think, and those of you guys can correct me that are really in on this, but I think it was in January. Well, we're still in January. This is the 30th, so I'll publish this in the next day. But anyway, I think there's some like major planets are in an alignment they've not been in. They've all made a shift or something within this last month. You guys can explain it, but anyway, it's energetically massive. Okay, and then we still have the sun doing its thing, right? But anyway, point is, Fiery Horse is action and change and shift and movement forward, and there's nothing that's stopping us. Nothing that's stopping us, okay? Nothing at all that is stopping us. And so within that collective, and you remember in January, for the January energy update, you might recall that I was getting visuals, which I usually always do, and I was getting the chessboard, which is really interesting, and that the pawns were turning around on the king and the queen. So there's a lot there with that. I just heard the word uprising. Again, we see, we're going, it's almost like, oh, I just got chills on this. I don't know how we'll see this play out. It's a little bit like the energetic impetus of what's happening here in the United States is a spark that lights the flame elsewhere. This is interesting. Remember how I used to say it was localized, like things were going to be localized? But what I do get is this is a network of energy that will, the spark that lights the flame. Now remember, the flame's always there, but this is fiery horse. Turns into this makes so much sense. And fiery horse, you think about a horse moving at a fast pace, like a galloping horse, right? I'm seeing, I don't know how this will unfold, but here's what they're showing me. As you know, they give me a lot of metaphors and visual metaphors. They're showing like a network, the fire, like if there's a, you know how if you're setting off, somebody's setting off, it almost feels like a comic where there's a string of like, I don't know, dynamite or whatever, and that spark that you light then travels in these different places along the ground on this like cord, and then lights fires in various places or explosions or whatever. This is what they're showing with this energy of, I just heard defiance, collective oneness. I just heard people will be coming together, are coming together under common ground. I do want you to know everything, and this is hard to understand and accept, but I think most of you kind of get this, is everything that is happening is purposeful. Everything that is happening is purposeful. And yet as humans, very difficult to see. But what this is doing is it's pulling us all together into the oneness where our separation, we're going to start seeing, and there's something in February, localized. This is what they're talking about. They've said this a long time ago. These are localized. Remember, you might remember 5, 6, 7, I don't know, it was last year sometime. And they've said this a couple times. Localized situations. And that's this. It's localized things happening that light there's the spark that lights that flame and then travels. Okay? So I hope I'm explaining this correctly or that you're getting my visual representation. So the localized events are going to allow us to start to see our commonality, our common humanity. The separation is going to start dissolving. Now I'm not saying this happens tomorrow and we're done. I'm saying in February, this energy is ripe, okay? Because we're starting Fiery Horse. It's setting the stage for this. Like so much happens that the walls drop, the veils drop, all of that drops, the divisions start dropping, the labels start dropping. Wow. If this this is going to be fascinating. I think it's a start of this, is what I will tell you. And there may be some definitive moments that show us this, okay? So what was divisive between us before will start to break down and will not. They just showed the Berlin Wall. Do you remember when Germany, the wall came down? The wall came down. That's what they're showing me. The wall came down. Okay, so this is a visual representation. Like we're knocking the walls down, okay? But there's a catalyst for that, right? So the catalyst is what occurs. We have to break our own walls down. We have to break our own walls down, right? Yeah. Oh, wow. This is so fascinating. This is the start of this in February, and it's big energy. It's big energy. So I'm going to wrap this up here right now. And I keep seeing this network across the world, a catalyst network across the world. I don't know what that's going to look like at the beginning of this. I think we're going to see some major things happening in February that are in alignment with this. By the way, this is all levels. This primary surge forward is coming from the common human. When I started my journey in 2016, channeling, I didn't even know what was happening to me. I didn't know what I was doing. I just got started. Everything opened up to me and I just had knowledge. But it was flowing to me in words, right? What they said to me, before I even knew what the awakening was, they said, this is an effort from the common human. All the great ones are back in common human form. So they said this is a grassroots effort of the common human. And it is. And you're seeing it. And so this is, and they did say all the great ones are back in common human form. What that means is historically, a lot of us have had massive we've all had lots of lives, right? But we've also played big roles too. Many of us. We've all had massive lives. Okay. And I'm talking in the effect that we have on the collective in that human journey, in that human role. Okay. But now we're all back in common human form. But what's happening is this is the power of that trickles all over. And so we have at all levels. It's fascinating to see this, particularly in the work that I do. I work with all types of people, all belief systems, all of that. But we have that commonality, which is so fascinating to see that we can be so different, right? And this is being worked on at all levels. I will tell you that. And when I say levels, all levels of society. It's a fascinating thing when you can see it from kind of like the perspective I have, right, in the work that I do. And so anyway, what I want you to know is let's just see if I can give you 3 things that you can focus on in February, even though many of you already kind of know what you need to do. This is probably just a reinforcement of that I just heard don't get lost. You want to feel what you feel? You want to feel what you feel. Don't get lost. Know how to pull yourself out? Okay. There's also, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, how do I want to explain this? It's almost like a guilt trip of that others may say, oh, well, you're just like an ostrich with your head in the sand. Or you're, if you get into a conversation, which I don't really get into those conversations at all. Although I'm seeing some localized events with friends that are being very heavily impacted by what's actually happening in the external world. And so, okay, that's why they're showing this. Okay, so don't get lost in it, but understand where you can, this is why I talk about localized, at your local level, like be an assistance to a friend that's going through struggles with all this. I've got a good friend in my tennis group, and without divulging a lot, is being limited from being able to, not allowed to leave the country, which I think many people are doing, and has very sick family overseas, but has a family here. So there's a lot of trauma around some of these things. I mean, obviously, that's just his scenario. But here's the thing. My point in bringing that up is, how can you as a light worker support that individual? What can I do to help him and support him? And he and I have talked. We've reached out. He's reached out to me. I mean, these things kind of just happen, right? Like you get it. You'll have. It's not like you have to go do the thing, even though you want to have that in your heart space, right? Where it makes sense for you. But he just reached out to me, and I didn't even know he knew what I did, right? But so there's that. So it's a localized. How can you impact who you work with each day, who you see each day, how you impact yourself each day? Because I'm going to tell you right now. We've never been taught that it all starts here. We've never been taught that it all starts here as a collective. Maybe some of us got really lucky growing up, but not really. It's mostly what's the external world telling you to do and how should you live your life. It all starts here. So, even though we are going through our collective Armaggedon at the same time, we have traveled long and far. And we are making an impact. And we are seeing the shift and change that we so desperately need. And the way of the world is we have to come into balance, right? And so we have to see the side we're seeing. And that we've been seeing in other parts of the world for eons, right? But now we're really in a collective situation where a country that has so much power is affecting everyone else as well. Okay? So this is kind of like, it really is, I'll just call it the last hurrah of that. So I want you to keep the faith, keep your strength, know that it's easy to feel despair, feel the feelings, but do not drown in it or the information that's out there, because I will tell you it's very, very, it's amping up in the sense of very insidious, causing a ton of fear. Get rid of that fear. that fear is not real, because the only real thing is love. All right? The only real thing is love. Everything outside of that is fear or isn't real. So remember, fear is prevalent right now, and we're here to ground, to be in a space of centeredness, but we are also human, so we need to feel the feeling, and then as much as we feel appropriate without getting lost, receive information, and then get back to centeredness. And then yet, of course, we also have our own personal stuff we're going through. So if this isn't a journey, I don't know what is, okay? I guess we just all signed up for it. And again, I want to thank you for everything you're doing every single day. And again, welcome to February, and I will be in touch in the next video. Again, thank you so much for joining me.